Welcome to Wisdom Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2673 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. Today's Wisdom Nugget is titled God's Triumphant Vindication, a Fortress Unconquerable. A trek through Psalm chapter 76, verses 1 through 12. Today we embark on a truly triumphant trek through Psalm 76 in the New Living Translation, encompassing its foundational verses 1 through 12. Psalm 76 is another psalm attributed to Asaph, and it bursts forth with a powerful declaration of God's awesome glory and his decisive victory over his enemies. Unlike the agonizing communal lament of Psalm 74, where the temple lay in ruins and God seemed absent, or even the Psalm 75, which proclaimed God's future judgment, Psalm 76 celebrates the pastdivine intervention and resounding triumph where God himself defended Jerusalem and scattered the mighty of those who defied him. While the specific historical event is not named, many Bible scholars believe the psalm celebrates the victory like God's miraculous delivery of Jerusalem from the Assyrian army under Sennacherib, as recounted in 2 Kings chapter 19 and Isaiah chapter 37. In that astounding event, 185,000 Assyrian soldiers were struck down by an angel of the Lord in a single night, without a single battle fought by human hands. This psalm captures the awe and gratitude of the people who witnessed God's supernatural power that turned the tide of war. In contrast, the fleeting glory and might of human kings with the enduring, terrifying power of the Almighty, who acts decisively to defend the humble and silence the proud. The psalm reminds us that our God is not only the ultimate judge, but also an invincible defender of his people. So let's immerse ourselves with this hymn of triumph, recognizing the God who makes his dwelling a fortress and crushes all those who oppose him. First, let's read Psalm 76, verses 1 through 3. God is known in Judah. He is great in Israel. His tabernacle is in Salem. He lives on Mount Zion. There he broke the flaming arrows, the shields, swords, and weapons of war. The psalm opens with a declaration of God's renown and his chosen dwelling place. The God is known in Judah. He is great in Israel. This isn't a speculative statement. It's a confident affirmation. God's character and power are not hidden. They are clearly known and great throughout the lands of Judah and Israel. His deeds have made him famous, and that is undeniable. This sets the tone for certainty and assurance, immediately establishing God's active presence and influence among his people. The reason for his renown is then specified. His presence is in the sanctuary. His tabernacle in Salem. He lives on Mount Zion. Now, Salem is an ancient name for Jerusalem, and Mount Zion is a hill on which Jerusalem and later the temple stood. The tabernacle here refers to God's dwelling place. Later it was formalized as the temple. This emphasis that God's presence is localized in Jerusalem, making it a uniquely sacred and powerful city. For the Israelites, God's actual inhabitation of Jerusalem transformed it into an invisible fortress. It was the place from which his power emanated and where his glory resided. What will happen in his dwelling place? There he broke the flaming arrows, the shields, the swords, and the weapons of war. This is a pivotal action that demonstrates God's greatness and why he is known. The imagery is powerful and specific. Flaming arrows were terrifying weapons designed to ignite destruction. Shields and swords and weapons of war represented an entire arsenal of formidable enemy army. Crucially, God did not merely deflect the weapons, he broke them, rendering them useless. This happened there, in Jerusalem, at his dwelling place. This points to a supernatural intervention where God himself, from his sanctuary, neutralized the enemy's might without a direct human battle. This is precisely what happened with Sennacherib's army, whose weapons were rendered useless by divine action in 2 Kings chapter 19, verse 35. God, from his holy dwelling place, proved himself to be the divine warrior, dismantling the enemy's entire war machine. This provided a profound reassurance after the fears of Psalm 74, where the enemy's axes had been destroyed in God's sanctuary. Here, God shatters the enemy's own weapons within his, now restored or defended dwelling. This opening triumphant of verses celebrates God's known greatness, his tangible presence in Jerusalem, and his supernatural power that shatters the might of the attacking armies from his holy dwelling place. Now let's continue with this trek with verses 4 through 6, which vividly describes the sudden and complete defeat of the powerful enemy by God's mere rebuke. You are glorious and more majestic than the mountains with their plunder. The proud have been plundered. They sleep their last sleep. The The strong warriors are helpless. When you roared, O God of Jacob, horses and chariots lay still. The psalmist continues to praise God's unparalleled majesty and power. You are glorious and more majestic than the mountains with their plunder. Now, mountains with their plunder likely refers to the mountains where the conquering armies would bring spoils of war, or perhaps even the nations themselves, seen as high and mighty, accumulating wealth through conquest. The psalmist declares that God is far more glorious and majestic than any human power or earthly triumph. His glory transcends all human accumulation and might. He is not merely a great conqueror, he is on an entirely different plane of existence and power. The incomparable majesty of God leads directly to a swift and utter defeat of the proud enemy. The proud have been plundered. They sleep their last sleep. The strong warriors are helpless. This is a direct result of God's intervention. The proud, or stout-hearted, are the arrogant, boastful, self-reliant enemies like those described in Psalm 73 and Psalm 75. They boasted in their own strength, but now they are plundered, stripped of their spoils, suffering the very fate they inflicted on others. They sleep their last sleep, a euphemism for death, a sudden and decisive end. This is divine judgment. And those who were once considered invincible are rendered utterly impotent. The strong warriors are helpless, it says. Their might, their training, their weapons are all useless before God's power. This perfectly illustrates the point of Psalm 75, that God alone exalts and brings low. Human strength is nothing before him. The cause of this devastating defeat is then revealed in God's powerful voice. When you roared, O God of Jacob, horses and chariots lay still. Now the roar of God symbolizes his powerful word, his mighty command, his very presence that shakes the earth. This is the same God of Jacob who faithfully delivered his people. When he spoke, the most formidable instruments of ancient warfare, horses and chariots, the ancient equivalent of tanks and armored cavalry, which formed the core of many powerful armies, were instantly paralyzed. They lay still in death or utter paralysis. This emphasizes the supernatural nature of the victory. It was not of human strength or battle, but by God's mere utterance. This section vividly portrays God's overwhelming power, reducing the mightiest human armies to utter helplessness with just a word, a glorious vindication of his suffering people. Now let's move on to the final verses 7 through 12, where the psalmist culminates his declaration of God as the fearsome judge who acts on behalf of the afflicted and receives universal tribute. You are awesome, O God, when you rise up to punish. Who can stand before you when your anger explodes? From heaven you pronounce judgment, and the earth trembles and was silent when you rose up to execute judgment and to save all the humble of the earth. Human wrath only brings more praise, for you use it to accomplish your purpose. Make vows to the Lord your God and keep them. Let everyone bring tribute to the Awesome One, for he breaks the spirit of princesses and is feared by all the kings of the earth. The psalmist returns to God's fearsome nature as judge. You are awesome, O God, when you rise up to punish. Who can stand before you when your anger explodes? Now, awesome, the Hebrew word norah, implies inspiring profound awe and dread. When God rises up to punish, that is, literally for judgment, he is a terrifying power. The rhetorical question, who can stand before you when your anger explodes, highlights God's irresistible might. No one, no power, can stand against the righteous indignation when he acts. This is a direct answer to the fears and questions of Psalm 74, wondering where God was in their suffering. Here, the answer is, he is the God who rises up to punish. God's judgment is proclaimed from the cosmic realm. From heaven you pronounced judgment, and the earth trembled and was silent when you rose up to execute judgment and to save all the humble of the earth. God's judgment originates from his heavenly throne, his supreme authority. When he speaks, the earth trembled and was silent, signifying the reverent submission before the Creator's majestic power. The silence emphasizes the awe and fear inspired by God's decree. This divine judgment is executed not randomly, but with a specific purpose, to save all the humble of the earth. Now the humble, the Hebrew word anavim, are the afflicted, the oppressed, the meek, the very people for whom the king was to bring justice in Psalm 72. God is the ultimate defender of the vulnerable, acting decisively on their behalf. Now the interlude here provides a moment of reflection of this profound truth. God's power and judgment bring salvation to the humble. The psalmist then makes a remarkable statement about human resistance. Human wrath only brings you more praise, for you use it to accomplish your purposes. This is a profound theological insight. Even the wrath, literally fury, of humanity, their rebellion, their malicious anger, their opposition to God, ultimately serves for God's purpose. God is so sovereign that he can even use human evil, not as something that he condones, but as an instrument to bring about his glory and to achieve his plans. It is a testament of his absolute control, turning even human rebellion into the occasion for his praise. The proper response for such a God is then commanded. Make vows to the Lord your God and keep them. Let everyone bring tribute to the Awesome One. In light of God's awesome power and his decisive judgment, the fitting response is a profound worship and commitment. To make vows signify solemn promises of dedication or offering, and the instructions to keep them, emphasizing the importance of integrity and faithfulness in fulfilling these commitments. Everyone is called to bring tributes, that is, gifts or offerings, to the Awesome One, Hebrew word Norah, the God who inspires profound fear and reverence. This reinforces the idea of universal acknowledgement of God's sovereignty, as we saw in Psalm 72. The psalm concludes by summarizing God's ultimate authority, for he breaks the spirit of the princesses and is feared by all the kings of the earth. Princess refers to the powerful rulers and officials. God breaks their spirit, or cuts them off, utterly dismantling their pride, their will, and their power. They are rendered impotent. The God is not just feared by the common people, but by all the kings of the earth, the most powerful human rulers. This demonstrates God's absolute supremacy, humbling the mighty and proving his kingdom truly knows no limits. It's a powerful answer to the cries of Psalm 74 about the enemy's boast. Psalm 76 is a majestic hymn of triumph, celebrating God's awesome power, his decisive victory over his enemies, and his ultimate role as fearsome judge who defends the humble and receives universal tribute. It provides a profound reassurance after the despair of Psalm 74. What profound wisdom can we draw from this psalm for our wisdom trek today? Well, firstly, God is known for his presence and his power, especially his dwelling place. When he rises up, even the most formidable enemies and armies are rendered useless. This should fill us with confidence in his ability to defend us. Secondly, God's judgment is righteous and precise. He acts to save the humble from the earth, humbling the proud and elevating the afflicted. This reinforces his justice and his heart for the vulnerable. Thirdly, even human wrath and rebellion ultimately serves God's purpose, leading to his greater praise. This provides profound perspective of chaos and evil that we might witness in the world. God remains sovereign over it all. And finally, the appropriate response for such an awesome God is profound reverence, faithful vows, and universal tribute. We are called to honor him with our lives, knowing that he is the one who breaks the spirit of the proud and is feared by all the kings of the earth. Let us stand in awe of our God, knowing that he is an invincible defender and the righteous judge, who will ultimately bring praise to his name through his powerful acts of salvation. Thank you for joining me on this powerful trek through Psalm 76. I trust that this exploration of God's triumphant vindication and awesome power has deeply encouraged your heart today. Join me again the next time when we begin a new segment in our Wisdom Trek, continuing to uncover the timeless truths of God's Word. Now, if you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us and come along with us tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, creating a legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, your mentor, and most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through the Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. And as we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, and leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom.